Welcome to Dear Feet. I'm Jess.
And I'm Renee.
And we're the Deerfoot sisters. This week we're talking about online dating.
That's right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by Renee and I just giving our history with online dating.
Sordid details.
Yes. Okay, so do you want to go first?
Sure. My history with online dating starts a long time ago. I met a few of my first boyfriends in college on MySpace, which maybe that counts as online dating. And then we got Plenty of Fish accounts. I think you introduced me to Plenty of Fish.
I'm pretty sure you introduced me.
Oh, maybe I did. I don't remember. But whatever, we used that for a while, and then that got kind of weird after a while. The fish were not really prime catches. And then we discovered OkCupid. I don't really know how. Did you introduce me to that one?
I don't remember, honestly.
So I used that for a while, and then I tried some others. Like I used Coffee Meets Bagel like a couple times, and I did use Bumble, I think, like once. You may not know this, Jess, but I actually did also have an account on sugarbabies.com. But I was never really successful. I kind of just wanted to check it out. But it was interesting because if you signed up with a .edu address, you were known as a college baby, and you got like extra features unlocked for being an educated sugar baby.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long would you say that you've been on dating sites? You're not currently on them,
yeah.
but how long would you say you've been on them?
Oh,
Or you were on them before you got married or before you met your husband?
probably 8 years.
Okay, yeah.
No, I guess 6 years, probably. I met my husband when I was 24, so like 6 years.
Yeah, you were probably 18 when you started going.
Yeah, I don't think I was younger than 18. Maybe
Okay.
I was 19. So 5 or 6 years, but a pretty long time.
So how many men would you say that you've met, like, from online dating? Like, how many dates do you think you've gone on?
Like first dates or dates with the same person?
Yeah, first dates. Like, how many different people do you think that you have met via online dating and gone on dates with?
Probably hundreds. I would say, because when I was first online
Wow.
dating, because at first, like, there's been times in my tenure as an online dater where I've gone on multiple dates a week with new
I
people.
thought you were going to say a day.
I don't think I've really double booked ever. Maybe like once or twice
Okay.
But-
So what's one of your favorite apps?
to use. Well, I met my
Or was.
husband on OkCupid, so I'd say that's a pretty good one.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're all kind of the same. Like, I noticed that they sort of seem to go through phases, like with Plenty of Fish. It started out, was like the first free app, at least that we used. So I think at first it was like really exciting and good. Oh, duh, and I used Tinder too, but only for like a little bit. I don't know if I even met anyone from there. But with Plenty of Fish, then like after a while, it just started getting really creepy, like just a bunch of weirdos like asking you for nude pictures or just being creepy. So then I was like, okay, I'm not really into the scene. And then I went on OkCupid, and it was more like the serious type people looking for relationships and stuff. But then I heard that OkCupid got more sketchy, and then Plenty of Fish got like back to more normal. So I think it's like a pendulum. You just kind of have to keep testing the waters and see.
Yeah. Okay.
What's your history like?
So, for me, I've been on okay, I'm actually also currently not on the dating sites. I deleted my profiles. A
Bold.
few-
How do you date?
Wow. I don't really date.
Okay.
I deleted my profiles a couple of weeks ago, or maybe like a month and a half ago, because I just was I was over it, and I didn't really want to have that stuff online anymore at the time. But I do still have
At the time?
at the time. But I do still have people that I talk to that I've met recently.
Okay.
So I'm still in contact with some of the people that I have recently met from online dating, but I don't have the profiles. And actually, when I first deleted it, a bunch of people messaged me, like texted me and said, "Why'd you delete your profile? Why'd you delete your profile?" I was like, okay.
That's so weird.
Relax.
So they just like watch you.
Yeah,
on
I guess they
dating
noticed
sites?
that it was gone.
Like, I could understand if
Like,
they
I was
noticed you come back. But like,
Well,
how would they know you're
I was
gone?
actively talking to them. So, like,
Oh,
that's
okay,
the thing
okay.
that if you're dating online, you do. If you go on a few dates with someone or you're talking to them and you haven't met up yet, you will kind of check back at their profile to see maybe to look at them again or to see if it looks like they've been active.
Like when you forget their name, you look for clues in their profile.
Yes. So
Right.
I've been on Plenty of Fish. I mean, I thought you had introduced it to me, but I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure you told me
I
about
looked it up today because we did do a little bit more research this week, Mom. So I looked it up, and Plenty of Fish started in 2013, and in 2003, I'm sorry.
Oh, like 2013.
Yeah,
I definitely was
no.
using it before that.
2003, and I definitely did not have it then. I'm pretty sure I got it when I was about.
Well, in 2003, you were 15, so that would be really creepy.
I was not out of high school. I was definitely out of high school when I got it, and we were like, our parents had lived in their current house.
I think you were 21 because
I think I was.
I didn't use Plenty of Fish when I was at college in Nevada because that's when I was meeting all my boyfriends on MySpace.
Yeah.
So I think you probably showed it to me like that summer or at some point 2009-ish.
So basically I had been using it for almost 10 years. Maybe 10 years.
Do they have like a celebratory thing when you hit 10 years? Do you
Not
get
that
like
I
a
know
medal
of.
to put on your profile?
But I definitely, it's a question that people on online dating apps ask you. How
Right.
long have you been on the site? And I would respond, 10 years. It's not a good sign.
And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, do you work for this site?
it was never very good.
Yeah.
So I've used Tinder and Plenty of Fish, which is also like nicknamed POF. So if we're calling it that, that's what it is. You
Oh yeah,
probably
someone told me that. They were like,
could've
I
figured
never
it
heard
out.
it was called POF. And I'm like, it's literally the app logo.
Yeah.
It's a fish and it says POF.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But I guess it's only for those in the know, which I didn't even realize we were part of a secret club.
Or OKC.
OKC.
OkCupid.
Not Oklahoma City.
I don't think a lot of people really say OKC though. But
They
I hear-
type it, I think.
Yeah, they type it, but a lot of people actually say POF.
Yeah, people say POF, but they say OkCupid.
Right.
But they type OKC.
So I've been on OkCupid, I've been on Plenty of Fish, and I think with OkCupid the thing is, it recently became similar to Tinder in the fact that you had to swipe on people and you couldn't talk to each other until you both liked each other. So
Right.
it used to be more like the system was that you could just message anybody whose profile
Right.
you saw. But now it's that you have to mutually like each other before you can actually communicate. And that's why it's more, because it's, I don't know if it was owned by Tinder or what, but I guess because it was more Tinder-esque in that way, that maybe it was becoming more of a like hookup site, which I feel like Tinder has always had that reputation.
Tinder was like designed as a hookup site, I
Right.
think. But then I do know people who've like, I mean, I don't know personally, but I've heard of people who have met like significant others on Tinder. So I mean, it always depends. Like,
True.
who knows? You can meet the love of your
Right.
life at the grocery store, or you could meet them on sugarbabies.com.
Yeah. So the number of people that I've met, the number of people that I've talked to from online dating sites is
What do you mean by talk to?
like messaged with is like in the thousands.
Like
I-
message them returned, not just
Yeah.
like a message you sent.
Yeah.
Like, sup.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. It's in the thousands, I'm sure. They just
Well, yeah, I mean, let's see. If you did it for 10 years, even if you messaged one person a week, that's like 50 people a year. So that's like a lot of people.
500 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then there'd be sometimes where you might message with, 10 to 15 or even 30 people in one day. If you're just
Yeah, of course.
spending
if
a
you're
lot of
just
time
like,
on your phone.
yeah, if you're just home and like browsing through the POF.
And I think
classifieds.
the more that you're on the site, you come up in searches because it shows that you were more recently active, so
Right.
people
Yeah.
are messaging you. But, and then gone on dates, it's a similar number in the hundreds. I've met up with a lot of people that I've met on online dating. Before the official sites were made, I would also meet people on MySpace. That was I'm not gonna say it was a cool way to meet people, but we always have met
We're
people
open,
online
yeah.
and been open to that. We were meeting people online before it was
Before cool.
Yeah, before it was mainstream to do.
Yeah. Oh my God, we're such trendsetters.
Like when I dated someone that I met online, we did tell people we met at the bowling alley. So nowadays, I think people are just very open about meeting online because it's not.
Well, they still, some
People, yeah, a lot of people, their headers or their profile like tagline is, "I'll lie about how we met," which
Yeah.
I don't really. But I also think sometimes they're joking.
I think it's just like a funny thing. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever. I'm upfront about how I met my husband. Like, who cares? What's the shame? Again, if
agree.
we'd met on sugarbabies.com, it might have been a little different. Or like some weird site that was like niche for something really.
Firebride.com.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know,
FetLife.
selling your underwear or something. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, I bought a pair of her panties and I fell in love. Like, that would be kind of weird, but whatever. That's not our
Right.
story. But if it is your story, then own it.
Yep. And I think I also did use Coffee Meets Bagel, but I did not like it at all, so I really didn't use it very much.
Yeah, I think I met one person from there, and he was a doctor, so bonus points.
Nice.
But it didn't work out, so negative points. So I'm pretty much neutral.
Okay, so we've never paid for dating sites, but there are paid sites.
Which are probably better, I would
Yeah.
imagine.
I've heard a lot of people say really good things about Match. I've heard people say good things about eHarmony. And I've had friends tell me that if I wanted to find someone more serious, I should use those sites, which I do understand, because if you're paying and you're putting a monetary investment in, you probably are taking it more seriously than if you're just using it for free and you kind of don't have that commitment.
Right, like those people on those sites are generally actually looking for like relationships.
So when I was younger, I actually tried to sign up for eHarmony. It was a free trial, and I forget exactly how many points is your personality profile. What do they say? It's like
16 or 13 or
16
something.
point personality profile.
With the old man in
out
it.
of one of our 8 profiles or whatever. Like they do all these questions.
Yeah, how many? It's like a long questionnaire,
It's a very
right?
long questionnaire, and then they put you into one of these like 12 or 8 profile types or personality types, and that's how they match you so well, and that's how they can boast their scientifically studied whatever
Their match
success
rates.
rates or whatever, match rates. So I did the entire test, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have a free trial and be able to talk to people for a little while and see if it comes of anything. And basically, when my results came in, it said that I was unable to be matched. Like, my personality didn't fit in any of their little boxes.
So you couldn't go on the site.
Couldn't.
So you got rejected.
I got
from
rejected
eHarmony.
from eHarmony.
That's
The
so
ultimate
cold.
rejection.
That's so cool. They were basically like, "You're so crazy. We don't want you on here for 10 years. Maybe check out
Yeah.
a free site instead. You might
They're like,
find
"We
some
heard
of your
about you."
people."
We have the feeling that you're the kind of person that stays here for 10 years, and that makes us look bad. We like a good turnaround.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that eHarmony rejected you.
I know. I think that happened so early on, and that's probably why I'm still single.
Probably.
Never gotten over it.
Yeah, so they say like one bad breakup could, damage you
Yeah.
irreparably. So
I was
yours
really
was
excited about
the
it.
eHarmony rejection.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get over?
I'm still not over it.
Well, thanks a lot, eHarmony.
Oh my gosh.
You could try Match though.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I think I'm just I'm in school, focusing on myself. Focusing on myself. And once I feel ready to kind of get into dating again, I'll probably try Match, because I think it's going to be more serious.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But I do want to talk about kind of why I'm single. This wasn't actually
Okay.
on our outline. We made an outline today, but I feel like I'm single for a couple of reasons, but oh, Renee, what?
No, I'm just curious to see your self-evaluation.
Okay, so my first reason is that I am picky,
Yes, extremely high standards.
but it's also that I'm extremely impatient. So,
She ain't got no time for games.
or anything really. Like stuff that normal people compromise in relationships, I just say to myself, I would never want to deal with that. Nope.
Yeah, she has a lot of deal breakers.
I'd rather be
so.
single than have to put up with stuff that I find to be whatever.
Irritating. And like you say these things, but then there's definitely been times where I've like heard you talking about people you're smitten with and you totally let them slide on a lot of stuff. So I feel like if you're in this situation, it might be different. It's easier to say like when you're outside of it, but I do think that if you met someone that you really liked, you would probably compromise more than you realize.
Well, it's also the thing about crushes, and I have a lot of crushes, and
That's
I
true.
crush very hard and very quickly, and then I pretty quickly come out of the crush like zone or the crush colored glasses, and I realize, yeah, no.
Yeah, it's kind of like a switch for you.
Right.
You know, in that T Swizzle song where she's like, I'm the kind of girl that's gone forever when you say goodbye. For you, it's like if someone does one thing wrong, then it's just like ultimately no, done. Like it totally like wipes the slate clean of infatuation.
I don't know about that necessarily, but it's definitely that.
But there's definitely been examples of that, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had that too, where you're like, I'm so into this person, and then just one thing happens, and you're like, wow, I cannot believe how quickly I lost respect for them, or how little I care about them now. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's
Not like in a
definitely
mean
things
way,
that
but
people
just
can
like
do that can.
it turns you off so much that you're like, no, and it's totally over for you.
Yeah, that's possible. But I mean, I have just mostly, I always used to say I'm really picky, and it's just that the people that I'm interested in don't line up with the people who are interested in me, and that's pretty much true because I've been in unrequited love situations both ways where I'm into someone and they're not into me, or someone's into me and I'm not into them. But I then have more recently realized that I'm also just the kind of person who I don't even think I could do a relationship really, because I'm just extremely impatient, and I'm a person that if you want to be with me, even as a friend or anything, you need to be very patient, and I
Right.
don't reciprocate, so that hypocrisy is there. And
mean,
it's
at least you
something
can
I
recognize
can't
it.
really, yeah, I try to work on it, but there's just certain things where I say to myself, no, I'd rather just be single. But I,
And
of
some
course, miss
people-
certain aspects. Like, I want the intimacy. It's nice to have a lover or a person to be with, even all of our friends. We have a group of like 8 couples and me.
17th wheel.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So it'd be nice to like have someone to go with when we go out to parties or go out to dinner, and I'm not the only person who's by themselves.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, it's nice to have a companion for sure.
Yeah.
And you're not into pets, so that's not an option. It's like you need man or lady
Right.
or something, or
Pets don't do that for me.
yeah.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about dating in the digital age was one of the things we wanted to discuss. So what are your takes, I guess, or what are some things? I think mostly a problem with dating today, or that makes it pretty hard, although people are still getting married and everything, so it's not like it's that hard. But I think there's just this whole casual atmosphere, this need to keep everything casual that just
Right.
makes it very tough to get into serious
I was
relationships.
talking at work to some coworkers about this, and I was saying I think a lot of that too is regional. I think that's very much like a New York metropolitan area type culture. And the reason is people have serious FOMO. If you don't know what that means, it's the fear of missing out. So they think they're just waiting and waiting for something better to come along. So if you want to make plans, they say, oh, yeah, maybe, and they keep it tentative in case at the last minute better plans come up. And it's like when you're doing that and you're putting off something that's good, waiting for something that's phenomenal, that might never come along. And then, you're a man and you're 35 and you realize, oh my God, now I want to settle down. And here were 10 girls in my past that I totally brushed aside, and because I wasn't ready or I wasn't thinking in that mindset. And a lot of people like to play it off like they're cool, like, oh, I'm just not into labels and all that. And I'm like, you mean you're not into commitment? Like, what does that mean you're not into labels? Because it doesn't actually matter what we call ourselves. I just want to know at the end of the day whether or not you're committed.
Right.
And that's not unfair to ask someone to be committed. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, they keep it so casual and they're always like, it's tentative. So then they act like you're crazy if you're upset when you haven't heard from them in 3 days.
Right.
Or they didn't show up to a party you thought they were coming to. And they're like, well, I said maybe.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but you made it seem like you were coming. And if you just say yes or no, then at least I'll know. But when you say maybe, then I'm like waiting and holding out hope, and then you just don't come, and it's very upsetting. And they act, I think, at least in my experience, is the guys act like you're crazy for it.
Right, exactly.
And you're like,
And
they just don't want you to, they want you to have no expectations of them.
right, and then they want you to be there when they're ready for it.
Right.
And it's like, okay, there's a double standard. So,
And of course, this could go the opposite way. We're just speaking from our experience as women. Like,
right.
Obviously, there's
I'm
some
sure.
women who probably string men along the same way, but
Exactly. I mean, I think a lot of people do it. The thing about Renee and I is that we're pretty forthcoming people. We'll get a little bit more into that later, at least for my history. But right now, like I try to be like a very honest person and like upfront person.
right.
So, and we try to be the kind of people that don't play games. Like that's the thing, and I was talking to someone that he and I had gone out, or we met up, and then I didn't hear from him for a while, and then I heard from him again, and we hung out again, and then didn't really hear from him, and he said he didn't think we wanted the same things, because I said we should go bowling, and he was like, that's too much like a relationship, and I said, okay, fine, whatever, we could do something else, and then he said it was selfish, and then I asked him if he wanted to see me again, and he said, maybe, and then I said to him, like, I said, I don't like games, and he said, I'm not playing games, but I said to him, how can you say you don't know if you want to hang out with me or not again? Like, you don't know if you want to see me again. Your answer is just maybe. I'm like, that answer is playing games. Because you know whether or not you want to see me. I didn't ask if you could hang out with me this second or tomorrow. Or I was talking about it with Renee the other day, and I said, he could have even said, yes, unless this happens. Like, give a conditional answer. But to just say maybe, I'm like, well, yeah, that's obviously always going to be true. It's always going to be yes or no.
Yeah,
so
I'm not saying
it's
can
not
we
a
get
real
married.
answer.
I'm just saying, like, do you want to? And I don't know, I experienced that a lot too. Like, even before I met Tim, some of the people I dated, and, it would be something like, you don't have plans tonight. I'm like, oh, do you want me to come over? And they're like, if you want. And I'm like, okay, but do you want me to? Like, are you just saying that because, like, I have free will and I can just show up at your house if I want? But, like, wouldn't that be weird if you didn't want me there? I never understood that answer. It's like, how about you just say, yeah, I'd love to see you, or no, I'm tired. Like, if you want, and then I'm like, okay, well, now I have no idea if he actually wants me there.
Yeah, it's very awkward. And the thing is, I think we also we've never been scared of being vulnerable, and I think a lot of people are, and that's what it comes down to, is they just aren't so terrified of getting hurt, and they cannot let themselves be vulnerable. And I always just feel like same guy I was talking to, and he said, I'm just worried, like, what if you get too attached? What if you fall in love? And I said, if I fall in love with you and you don't feel the same way, that's my problem.
Right.
I said to him, it's really not your problem. I'm not the kind of person who's going to act psychotic or stalk you or anything. I didn't even say that, but I'm just like, I wouldn't do that. And if I have feelings and you don't reciprocate them, that's really not your problem. Like, you feel however you feel. Like, I don't blame someone for not feeling the same way as me.
Right, but it's just be upfront about it.
Yeah, and he said, I don't want to break your heart. And I said, I don't care. First of all, I was like, we're not even there, but even if we were, I said, I don't mind having my heart broken.
Right.
Because it means that I had something real, or that I felt real feelings. And so, like, I'm literally not scared of that. And I never have been, so I'm very upfront, and I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'll tell people how I feel. Because I also just want people to do that to me, and I try to treat people the way I want to be treated.
Right. And it's like, especially with guys, like, they're all like, I'm not into games. And it's like, actually, you're super into mind games.
I know.
And if I was, like, upfront and honest about my feelings, you would be so terrified you'd never call me again. So that's just, like, total BS. I feel like when guys say that, they're the most into games of every guy. And you're like...
I know.
I'm like, are you sure you're not into games?
Because they always just want you to play games. And that's also why I'm single. Because I am incapable of playing games. I'm incapable of not saying exactly what I mean and when I mean it.
Right.
So I cannot do the playing it cool thing or acting into you a little bit, the waiting to text you. No, I can't. I just... Ugh.
And with waiting to text, like... What was that book? There was, like, a book called The Rules, right?
Yeah.
About, like, calling after 3 days.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. But now it's like, I'm sorry, 3 days when everyone has a cell phone? That is an extremely long time to not talk to someone.
Yes, that's...
It literally takes 5 seconds to send a text message. And when guys are like, oh, I was really busy, gosh. And I'm like, if you wanted to text me, you could have texted me back.
Or said, I'm really busy.
Or say, hey, I'm busy right now. I'll talk to you later.
Right.
But to disappear for days, especially when then you hang out with that person and you see that they have their phone on them and are checking it consistently. Like, it's one thing if you know, oh, when we're on dates, they have their phone aside and they're not using it. So there might be times where they put their phone away. Like, I know when I go out with my friends, a lot of times my phone will be in my bag and I'm not even near it.
Right.
So... okay, then you could understand that if they were like, oh, sorry, I was, like, working and I didn't have my phone on me. But if you see that they're the person who has their phone on them all the time and they go, like, 12 hours without responding to a text, you know it's just BS.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me recently. Same guy I've been talking about.
Does he listen to this podcast?
I don't know. He said I could talk about him. He said I could talk about him. So I'll tell him that he's in it, and then hopefully he'll listen, because we need more listeners. Hey, boy. Now he's never going to talk to me again. Anyway, so we recently, like, started talking again, like, a lot, and we were texting, and he was calling me a lot, and we were texting and talking. And then he kind of stopped talking to me for, it was really only maybe like 24 hours, maybe not even, like 4 p.m. to like 2 p.m. the next day. But at some point, like maybe 12 o'clock the next day, I said something like, oh, you're starting to ignore me again? What the hell? Or something like that. Like, what's your problem? And then he responded a few hours later with, I lost my phone. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And I'm just
so
like,
crazy.
Okay. I said, fine, but I hope you can understand that this is like a pattern, so that's why I responded in that way.
And also, if you lose your phone, you can just be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I lost my phone.
Yeah, even
I didn't
if
mean to ignore you.
Texted you like a few times, because we had been talking so regularly. Like, it was basically every second, like, responding, and then to just not say anything for a day, that's a long time.
Yeah, like, are you dead?
Right.
What happened?
And you don't know. And then especially if you have a history of disappearing, and it's just frustrating.
It sucks.
But it's the same thing of just doing things. It's like gaslighting. Like, they're doing stuff to
they're like really
make you say something,
crazy.
and then they just say, well, you're crazy. And I'm thinking, no, I'm responding in a very natural way.
And that's why it's always, to me, a warning sign when you date a guy and, you know, you get to the inevitable, like, talks about the ex, and they talk about how every ex-girlfriend they had was so crazy. And I'm like, let's see what the common denominator is here. Maybe you're just making them crazy. Have you ever thought about that?
Well, there's another guy that I met, and there's a lot of red flags about him. But one of the red flags was that he had a lot of these stories about these, like, really insane things that were happening to him with his friends. And I said to him, like, that would not happen to me, because I don't have friends like that. I said, you have to take responsibility for the people that you have in your life at some point.
Surround yourself with good people.
You could choose to not be friends with those kinds of people, and I was like, that would never I was like, none of those things would ever have happened to me, because my friends are not like that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just a matter of that too, is just figuring out. But yeah, I agree with you. If they've never done anything wrong, then it's kind of a red flag, because also it doesn't show that they're mature enough to even look at themselves in a realistic way.
Right.
So the other thing I was thinking about with the hookup culture, or something that happens these days, is not just keeping everything casual, keeping it all, like, vague, but also group hanging out happens a lot. And then it's a little, even just, like, who's dating who can get vague.
Right. Like, I think it's Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Did you ever see a story about how they met?
No.
They were on blind dates with different people. It was a double blind date, and they were both with different people, and then they just ended up connecting so strongly that it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. So then obviously it worked out for them. They're married, right? Like, so that can definitely be weird. Because I feel like when we usually were dating people, when both of us were single, or we had a lot of single friends, it was like, okay, I'm going to go on at least 3 or 4 dates with this person before I bring them around, because you just never know, like, what the vibe's going to be with someone else.
Yeah.
And if it's, like, your first date, they could just be dating. They could just be like, I like your friend better. And then that's a weird dynamic for everybody.
At that point, I think your friend, if you went on a date with them, I think your friend probably should say no.
Right. But it still would be awkward. Would you then want to date them if you knew they, like, liked your friend? You'd probably be like, oh, that's
Well, no,
weird.
I'm saying that person would just be gone out of your lives.
Yeah.
But there's even times where we would go out, and maybe someone would start talking to a guy, and then he'd come to the group, and then another one of the friends would kind of snatch him up.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's not, like, even though it hurts and you can be jealous because you feel like, oh, I wanted to talk to that guy, but now he's into my friend, I don't really understand when people get mad at the friend for it. Because it's not, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it depends. Like, if there's already an established relationship, that's pretty messed up, I think, of the friend. But if it's, like, a bar, it's the first time you're meeting.
Yeah, like, if you're just at a bar and, like, the one friend brings the guy near you, but it's, like, you're all really near each other.
And I feel like I'm a strong believer in chemistry. And I feel like a lot of times it's very obvious who has good chemistry and who doesn't. So sometimes it's almost uncomfortable when you're, like, around two people who have a really strong chemistry, you know, because you're like, it's like that palpable feeling. And if you were the person who initially wanted to get with that guy or that girl, but you brought them to your group and you noticed that connection between two other people, it's like, I feel like I'm kind of the person that would be like, oh, okay, that is happening and it's obviously strong, so I'll just step back.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not as obvious. Or
Yeah, sometimes
that
it's
could
not,
be more
but-
like a few people have good chemistry. But anyway, I just feel like you have to kind of gauge it in a way. It's not a thing that happens with us anymore because, as we said, all of our friends are married
Yeah, so
or basically married.
right.
So I'm the only one who I get all the singles now.
Yeah. Anytime a single comes to the group, we steer them towards the 17th wheel.
No, I think honestly, and I guess my friends are going to reach out to me after they listen to this because I feel like they purposefully don't set me up with people because they know how crazy I am or whatever, and they
That's
don't want to
probably true.
inflict me on anyone.
Or it's more they don't think it will work out. They don't
Yeah.
think you'll like the person probably
Right.
because
That's
they know
true.
you have really high standards. So.
Could be dual. Okay. So now we are going to get into our pet peeves. It's a little early in the episode.
Oh wait,
but-
did we talk about sneezing?
Oh, no. Right.
Are you guilty of sneezing?
Not really. We'll tell everyone what that is because you actually posted. Renee's our social media manager.
Yeah.
So she does the
You should
posts.
see me try to send a tweet. I didn't even know how to do it until 5 minutes ago. Yeah. So, sneezing is when you go on dates with the sole intention of getting free food.
Okay, no. I've never done that.
But have you benefited from free food?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What's your take on who pays for dates?
I mean, I just like it when a man pays. I just like it when I don't pay.
Right.
When I was younger, I would just always let the guy pay. And now I try to tell people like, oh, if we meet for coffee or something, I'll get my own, or like, if we're going to go out, if we are going to meet up for a meal, I'll just tell them up front, like, I'll pay for myself just because I want it to not seem like I'm sneaking, but also not even that. I just think to take some of the pressure off because if you're dating, like, and you're going on a lot of dinners and stuff, like, it's expensive.
It does, for sure. For the men, if they pay.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I ever really paid for dates.
So I had one story. This happened a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of goes into something later, but basically I went on a date with someone. We went out to dinner. We drove separately, so we met at the restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and he paid for dinner. And then he said that I asked him if he wanted to get together again or go out again. And he said no, but he wanted to hook up that night or something.
Mm.
And I said, okay, well, no thanks. And then he said, okay, well, then can you pay me back for your dinner? And I said, I don't have any cash. And he's like, well, can you go to an ATM?
Wow. Did you?
Yeah. So we went to the 7-Eleven on 22, and I got the cash out. And I said to him, you know, you could have been upfront about what you were looking for, something like what we talked about.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you could have looked more like your pictures.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, all right. And I mean, the thing is, I had lost weight and then gained weight back. And my pictures definitely weren't accurate at that time. But I had
Okay.
just reopened my profile. Like, it had been hidden for a while, and I just reopened it, and I wasn't even really thinking about it because I really don't even look at my own profile often.
Right.
So
Interesting.
I thought, oh, good point. So then I immediately, like, added many more realistic pictures. But that was just very...
So you basically took it well.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, ooh. The whole thing was awkward.
Well, yeah, that's extremely awkward.
Like, even him following me to the ATM and stuff was weird, because then I was like, okay, I don't know if he was going to be weird, like, do something else or anything. My mind always races. But anyway, other times, I mean, yeah, there have been times where, one time someone told me to pay because he said I was taking him out to dinner. And I was like, wow, okay. And then I just never went out with that guy again.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would often do, like, the fake out, get my wallet. Oh, you want me to pay? And, like, I always, or at least I tried to always have money in case they did, but they almost never did.
Yeah, whenever I
And
do
then
that, they
if
say
I
no.
definitely knew I didn't have money, I would just tell them, like, I would love to go to dinner, but I just want you to know, like, I don't have money to spend going out, so if you want to do something else, like, just meet at a park and go for a walk or something. And then they'd usually be like, no, I'll take you to dinner. And I think
Yeah.
it's like, I was usually I was telling the truth. Like, it's not like I had oodles of money and I was just, like, lying to get food. But also, like, do you order salad on dates or do you just eat, like, regular?
No, I do not order salad. I don't even eat salad.
I know, right?
I mean, I eat salad, like, as a side. Not a side, even, as, like, a starter. Like, if it comes with my meal and I can't
So what
get
would you
soup.
say is your normal, like, first date food? I feel like I usually go with, like, a chicken dish because it's usually pretty innocuous.
Yeah, it just really depends. I mean...
Avoiding the garlic.
I once went on a date with someone. It wasn't a first date, but he got garlic, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to get that?" And he said, "Yeah," and it was really not pleasant.
Well, we used to go to a restaurant called the Garlic Rose, and at that restaurant, they actually have mouthwash in the bathrooms.
Yes.
So obviously, they have a lot of garlic in all of their dishes.
We went to the one in Madison, New Jersey, but they closed, but there's still one in Cranford, and we are going to plan on going there sometime soon. So we'll let you know if they also have mouthwash there, because we've never been to that one.
Oh, right. Also, there are times where I have been dishonest in my food choices on dates.
Oh, really?
Not salad.
Oh, dessert.
No, coffee. Because I'm not a coffee drinker. So a lot of times when we go on dates for coffee, that's like a very typical first date that I would enjoy going on because there's not a lot of pressure. You can kind of end it whenever. And I felt weird ordering like a Frappuccino with extra sprinkles. So I would get like a caramel macchiato or something. And I'm like, I don't even really like this. One time in high school, I got a black coffee and it was disgusting.
So I started drinking at Starbucks and sometimes even Dunkin' when I go there. Just black tea, black iced tea. I don't like hot drinks. But so that's like my new meeting up for coffee drink, because then if you kiss, you don't have like coffee breath.
Right. That's
so that
a
was
good point.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get iced tea because then it's.
But then when you get iced tea in the winter, people are so judgmental.
I get iced.
And I'm like, I'm not drinking it outside. You can eat cold food in the winter and hot food in the summer, and that's totally okay. People are very weird about it.
They don't seem too upset when I do it. Probably just because I'm weird in general, so they expect it. I don't know.
It's possible.
I'm the town weirdo.
Yep.
Tie-dye girl.
Don't throw out all of Middlesex as a freak. All right, so what's next on the agenda?
So we have the pet peeves. So we've talked kind of a little bit cursorily. Is that a word? We've talked a little bit.
Done a cursory chat.
Yeah, about a few of them. Cursorily. That's a new word, guys. It's one of my foibles. Just making up words.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some of your other pet peeves for dating?
For online dating. One pet peeve I have is when you would be messaging in an app, right? And you're like, okay, this person seems pretty cool. I'm a big believer in, like, talking on the phone and meeting up soon. Yeah. Because sometimes you get into these, like, online relationships and you're like, oh, my God, I really like this person. And then you meet them and there's absolutely no physical attraction, no chemistry. And it's so awkward because you've been, like, messaging, for weeks. And then you're like, I don't actually like you. This is weird. So when I would be messaging people on OkCupid or POF, it's very similar to a text message. They come up threaded now, so it's very similar. And I would say, oh, why don't you call me? And I give them my phone number. And then they text me. And I'm like, if I wanted to keep texting you, I would have just messaged you in the app. What? It's not like more intimate to text on my phone than to just message in the app. I asked you to call me. And they're like, oh. And I'm like, first of all, I want to hear what you sound like.
Yeah.
And they're always like, and I'm like, just call me. Like, I want to get to know you. And they're like, well, what do you want to know?
I know.
And I'm like, I don't have a questionnaire. It's like when you talk to someone and spend time with them, that's how you get to know them.
Oh, I always brought the book of questions on my dates.
That's what I should have done.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
questions.
Yeah.
Like, that's so, like, I hate that when they're like, well, what do you want to know? And I'm like,
and then, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm like, just call me and you'll find out. Like,
listen to my podcast. I don't plan my conversations.
I know, they're so weird. And like, and then it would always be, they end up calling you and you talk for like hours and they're like, oh, I've never talked to someone on the phone for so long in my life. And I'm like,
me either.
Yeah, I'm like, cool. But it's just, I know people don't really like talking on the phone. And especially, I imagine now it's worse. I've been out of the game for a while, so.
It is hard. And there's a lot of people who, well, the one that always got me was when people say, I don't know you well enough to give you my number yet or exchange numbers. Because I usually ask, like, two messages in. I'm just like,
Yeah, just cut to the chase.
And
Not
and
cut
then
the chase.
cut to the chase. Cut the cheese. Cut to the chase. And then what happens, that's an instance where I'm, like, done. And I'll be like, okay, never mind.
Yeah,
some people are like,
I don't need
to... Then some people have said to me, like, guess I judged a psycho. And I'm like, not really. I just
Totally.
know what I want. And I don't want to be with someone who's scared to give someone their phone number.
And, like, on my old dating profile, I had a line that's like, I'm not looking for a pen pal. So if you don't plan on meeting up, then just get out of here. Because my philosophy is, like, what is the point of online dating? It's to meet people who you might not otherwise have the opportunity to meet. Because it's very unusual to have a chance encounter that leads to, like, a relationship.
Right.
Right? Sometimes I chat with people at the grocery store or at Starbucks or
Bread
something.
aisle.
And sometimes they're, like, receptive, but a lot of times they're like, why are you talking to me? And I'm like, I don't know. We're like, I was just telling you these are good scones. Like, I thought you might want to know. Maybe you want to try one, you know? That actually happened to me once at a Starbucks. The guy behind me was telling me about one of the pastries that was really good. And then he realized it was the last one. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I won't get it because you obviously wanted one and you're behind me in line.
Maybe
but that was
he
pretty
wanted
funny.
to share it with you.
Yeah, that is how our parents met.
Yeah.
Over an orange cranberry muffin, which, like, ew.
I love orange cranberry muffins.
I don't think I've really ever had one, but
Yeah, how dare you?
just the idea of
Some of
it.
my
Of
pet
all the
peeves.
muffins, I feel like that's...
Of all the chocolate chip muffins are the grossest.
You're so wrong.
Because they're so dry.
No, they're not.
Chocolate chips so bitter. Blah.
What?
I hate chocolate chips.
It's not a carob chip. It's sweet. Chocolate is sweet.
It's not milk chocolate.
You're right, it's semi-sweet chocolate.
Bitter chocolate. So one of my pet peeves is when guys are really persistent. Like, if you're not interested for whatever reason. Maybe you're not attracted to them or you feel like you don't have good chemistry or whatever. And you tell them in a super nice way, hey, I don't think we have a romantic connection. I'm sorry. I know you cannot hear her, but
I intentionally leaned away to have my
But you
drink.
did a weird noise, and now everyone's going to hear, and we're going to get yelled
I'm
at.
so obnoxious.
Anyway, so, and people will, and then the guys will just keep saying, just give me a chance. We could be really good together. Give me a chance.
Yeah, or
And
like,
I'm like, I
you
gave
really
you a
missed
chance by
out.
talking to you, and I'm not interested. And it's like, get the hint. And that happens to me, and I'll be like, okay.
And then
You
it's
know?
like, oh, nice guys never want, the girls never want the nice guys. I'm like, nice guys just take no for an answer. So if you're here badgering me, I hate to break it to you, but you're not a nice guy.
Yep.
You're a creep and just back off.
Right. Exactly.
Or when you see on Facebook and Tinder, or not Tinder, on Twitter and stuff, threads of men who go absolutely loco when you reject them.
Right.
And then I saw one that was like, the guy was basically rejecting a girl. And then when she's like, oh, I feel the same. Or actually, it might have been vice versa. It might have been a girl who went crazy. When she was like, I didn't really feel a connection. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm glad you said that. Like, me neither. And then she was like, what are you talking about? And like, started insulting him. And I'm like, you are so crazy.
Well, yeah, like, I met
You
someone...
can't hold it against someone if they don't feel a romantic connection to you.
Right.
It's okay. Like, there are 7 billion people
control
on
it.
this planet.
Yeah.
It's just like, move on with your life. You're so crazy. And then what, you think by like badgering them, you're going to convince them that they should
Right.
be with you? That would be such a weird story to tell your kids. Like, I didn't really like your dad, but he pretty much forced himself on me as a relationship. And then
Yeah.
I settled and changed my mind. And now we're complacently together.
I met someone recently, and he didn't have any pictures. And he said that his reason for not having any pictures was because he worked in a school
Okay.
as a school social worker, and one of his students had catfished him.
Mm.
So I said, okay. So he basically said, I will video chat with you, like FaceTime or whatever. And then once we know that, like, once I know that you're not one of my students, I'll, like, send you pictures if you want. But obviously we'd already seen each other at that point, whatever.
Right.
We actually never got to the video chat part. We were talking on the phone. And he was basically telling me that I always like to say to people, I like to make it clear that unless we have a conversation about being exclusive, that I might be dating other people and I assume that they might be dating other people just because it's online dating and you go on a lot of dates and you talk to a lot of people at the same time, and that's really just how it works.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of been under the impression that that's how dating in general works, but I guess a lot of people aren't like that. But he was not like that, and he said, well, when I go on a date with someone, it's the only person I see. And I thought, that's really strange, though, because we might go on a date, and then we might not go on another date for a week and a half.
Right.
And, I mean, I could, in theory, be meeting a lot of people, and I might not even know I won't know at all if I like you that much, because I'm barely going to know you at that point.
Right.
So he kind of wasn't interested, and then he basically just started calling me all these names and saying that I was a slut and whatever.
Mm.
And I said, okay, well, thanks, I'm really not interested in you. Right. And then he flipped out and he said that he has a great job and 3 properties and all this other stuff, and I was like,
cool,
great, but you're a jerk.
Yeah.
I was like, you're misogynistic, and I'm not really interested in someone who like treats me like garbage, even if you have a lot of nice stuff.
Yeah, I hate that.
It's just weird, and I'm like, how do you think that you're gonna be insulting me 1 second and I'm just gonna be interested in hanging out with you?
Yeah,
it's
like,
weird.
Where do they get this mentality that you owe them something?
I don't know.
Like, because you're
it's
you're on a dating website, it means you have to accept every single invitation that comes your way.
Right.
Like, that's not how the world works. Like,
yeah. Because some people just won't respond back to you, and that's fine. Like, I think etiquette dictates that, you know, you don't have to respond, and if in the initial message, like, it's fine. You know, if you don't get a message back, you should just assume, because that's what goes along with the persistent thing. Like, they'll keep messaging you, and I'm like, I didn't answer because I don't want to talk to you. And it gets to be a lot if you have to say to everyone. Plus, you just kind of want them to get a soft rejection of like, okay, I'm not going to flat out say no, but you're getting the hint of no. But then sometimes you have to say no.
Right.
But normally you would just realize, okay, that person never messaged me back. They either are, maybe they are busy, but you're not going to, like, spend the time thinking about it because you never even met them at that point.
Right. It's like, okay, just let it go.
I mean, another pet peeve of mine, obviously, is just, like, unsolicited nudes.
Right. Well, I actually love those. I'm just kidding.
Oh, my God, Renee. I hope this does not become super popular now, because now we're going to get a lot of weird.
Oh, I don't love them.
We do not.
We do not
kidding.
Love them. Nobody likes them.
So, yeah, I mean... And we both work with kids, and we've worked with kids for our whole lives.
God,
and
message previews?
People will tell me that, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, I work with children. You don't know what I'm doing at any given time.
10:30 in the morning. I didn't need to see your hairy balls.
Virtually assaulting me by sending me these photos, and especially when you say no, and then they do it. And then I'm like, wow, that is super disrespectful. And then again, it's your fault because you're a prude. And I'm like, no, that's just really gross.
Like, I'm sorry, do you just walk up to women in public and flash it? Like,
and then they think, well, it's ridiculous. I'm like, yeah, it's ridiculous.
The same thing.
Anyway, I can't.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the biggest pet peeve, and this happens all the freaking time, is ghosting. I cannot stand it.
No, ghosting is the worst. I mean,
it's horrible.
It's so bad. It's just say... But at the same time, I guess, based on what we just talked about, that people can go really crazy when you reject them, that might be why some people choose to ghost. But I just feel like...
People go crazy when you ghost them.
If you are seeing someone, just have the respect or the courtesy to just tell them, I'm not interested. Or sometimes it's as simple as, oh, I got back with my ex. You know? Or whatever.
You said seeing someone. If you respond to someone once... and then you decide that you're not interested, have the decency to just tell them. If they ask you. If they're not going to ask you, but if they send you, like, another message wondering where you went, just answer them.
Ooh, she almost cursed.
There's literally no reason not to do it. And to me, I cannot stand it when people ignore me. And it's been since I was a child. I feel like
it makes her irate.
Ignoring someone, you're basically saying, I don't even value you enough to... realize your existence.
Right.
You are so worthless to me that I'm going to pretend you don't even exist. And it is so rude.
Yeah.
And I just think there's really no reason other than you being scared to express yourself honestly and respectfully. You can respectfully reject someone, honestly. Yeah. And Renee has a little example of how she kind of didn't do this once.
What?
So So we went out with drinks with friends, and she met a friend of a friend.
Oh, yeah. So
now you know what I'm talking about.
This is like, yeah, we met this
This was
guy.
like 7 years ago or something.
And basically,
2012.
I don't know what was happening, but we just had like a fun friends weekend planned.
It was like our one friend had just gotten a job.
Yeah, so we
So
were
she,
like
like, bought a
doing
bunch
some
of
celebrating. So
drinks.
we were drinking a bunch, and then it got to the point where like a lot of people couldn't drive, so we just they came over to our house to crash. So this guy was there, and then like we had been talking at the bar about our plans for the next night because we were all like gonna hang out again.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, great!" And he just sort of inserted himself and invited himself to it. And I was like, "Okay."
Wait, and then offered to drive, but he didn't. It was winter or October, like November. It was cold. And he was missing a window in his car, and he had like a plastic bag over it.
Yeah,
It was
garbage bag with
freezing.
duct tape. And we're like,
And we're like,
cool, thanks for offering to drive. So anyway, so basically it ended up being like we spent like 36 hours with this person because we just kept having events with our friends and he kept tagging along.
Yeah.
And like obviously now driving us, so we couldn't really ditch him. And then he was like super into me and he was like telling me all this stuff and how he like wants to be with me. And I'm like, I'm not really looking for anything right now, is what I said. When in reality, I was just like, I'm not really looking for anything with you because you're weird. And like,
So then
you
what
just-
happened was you got caught in the lie because
Yes. So then later he found me on one of my dating profiles that obviously said like I was looking for a relationship because you can set what you're looking for. And he's like, oh, like he texted me and he's like, I don't like, why are you on this dating website looking for a relationship if you're not looking for a relationship? And I was just like, yeah, like maybe like take the hint. Like, but then I was like, okay, I guess I just have to be upfront with people and
that's
say,
when I gave you the classic line that I always use, and that even when I'm talking to people and they're not sure how to like just gently let someone go, is I don't feel a romantic connection. It's just
Right.
a nice thing to say because it's saying nothing negative about the other person.
Right.
You don't even have to say why. Sometimes they ask why, and then you might want to you'll give details if you feel like it, or you can just say like, listen, I'm not interested.
Right.
But I think honestly for me, once you say that, if they're going to keep pushing back with you, I will sometimes engage with a person because I tend to engage a lot with people that I should probably just break away from.
Right.
But I'll engage with someone also because if I were in that situation, I might want someone to explain it to me.
Right.
So
Well,
I'll explain it, but then once I feel like it's been explained, I will at some point say to someone, this conversation has been had.
yeah.
The horse is dead. It's beaten. We're not going to keep beating it. And then I will say to the person, like, if you don't stop messaging me, I'm going to block your phone number. But I always tell a person before I block them.
Yes. Like, just so you know, I'm about to start ignoring you.
Right. And then
Which is
that
fair
point,
enough,
it's because
like-
they're basically not leaving you alone or they're not getting it. And then there's been other times where people have just straight up harassed me, like really just gotten rude and like said really nasty stuff to me. And then I'm blocking you, and I do. And one person in particular just kept finding me on every single messaging site, and I'm like, leave me alone.
Yeah. It's,
Why? Like, what is your
What's the
problem? But yeah, so that's a thing. I just think if you're a person who ghosts, stop doing it immediately. It is never acceptable. It is extremely rude, and you're a better
just
person
say,
than that.
you can even just say, I'm sorry, I don't feel a romantic connection with you, and then block the person. At least
Yeah.
you told them something.
Or even just say, I'm not interested. Like, you're going to say it
Yeah.
over text. We know you are.
And like, we get it. It's the hint of the silence is the answer, but sometimes people do fall into a coma.
Yeah.
Like, you never know. And that's going to keep that girl's hope alive or that man's hope alive. And, you know, I had this experience a lot too, online dating, Jess. And I know we've talked about this before, where, you know, I would go on maybe like, let's say 2 or 3 dates. And that's a significant amount of dates, especially if it's within a short period of time with a guy. And it would seem like so great. We'd have a really good connection, like texting all day, talking on the phone, and then totally ghosted. And I was like, I would reach out and say, hey, you know, I get it. You don't want to see me again, and that's fine. But could you just let me know sort of like what I did wrong? Because I want to work on myself. And I would be very upfront about it. Like, and that was really how I felt. I wasn't trying to be crazy. I was just like, I'm looking for a relationship. It obviously didn't work out. I just want to know what I can do better next time so I can find what I'm looking for. And like multiple times when I was in the dating scene, guys would be like, oh no, I'm so sorry I haven't talked to you. I'm so happy you reached out. You know, I really wanted to say something to you, but you were so great and so awesome, and I was really scared, and then I didn't call you because I just like was feeling overwhelmed, and then I didn't call you because I hadn't called you, and then it felt like too long, and then I figured you hated me, and blah, blah, blah. And, like, one time I actually did go out with a guy again after that. Like, he had ghosted me for, like, 6 weeks.
From the Grasshopper?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, a guy I had met online.
Oh, okay.
And we did go out again. And then it was, like, nice. But then he ended up getting a job in, like, Colorado, so he moved. But I'm like, I don't understand that. You're telling me that I'm so great that you didn't want to talk to me?
I know.
And I'm like, no, it may be true that they were just doing a soft rejection. Maybe they were just lying to me. But I would tell them, like, I get why you might do that because a lot of people can be crazy, but I'm here asking you for feedback.
Yeah.
And if you can just give me honest feedback, I will leave you alone. Like, you will never hear from me again. And
Right.
obviously, it's not like once they started ignoring me, I was texting and calling them all the time.
Yeah.
But it was just like after I felt enough time had passed that they clearly had made it clear that they weren't interested, I wanted to know, give me some pointers for the future. And that's like the feedback I got was, you're so great. And I was like, cool, thanks. This is really valuable.
Well, yeah, but then you did get feedback from one guy that we met at our friend's bachelorette party in New York City.
Yeah.
He was German, right? And he was working for some company.
Yeah, I don't know. He just was like staying in New York for a while.
And he hung out with us for a while. And then what did he say to you?
He said, like, I think your heart is so open that it scares people.
Right.
It's like, I think you're so ready to fall in love that you fall in love the night that you meet someone, and that's overwhelming. So
Yeah.
he's like, if you think you love someone, just wait 2 weeks and then fall in love with them. And I was like,
I know.
Okay, easier said than done.
I can't do that.
Like, okay, but, you know, it was interesting. It was an interesting perspective, and I think,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I wasn't even mad at those guys. It was just, like, really frustrating.
Yeah,
because I was
it's hard.
like, okay, you guys are literally not giving me feedback. I don't know how I can improve on this. And as far as being guarded, like, I can't do that. That's just not who I am.
Right.
And
you're like,
I am incapable of doing that.
you're like, let me teach you how to not be that way.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe just open your heart.
It's kind of funny because we were out, it was like 2012, like right around the time of Hurricane Sandy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween-ish, and we were at like a bar dressed up in our costumes, and I was chatting with a guy, and he said something. I said, oh, I'm a lot to handle, and he said, people are just jealous. And I just laughed, and I said, that's just something people tell themselves to make themselves feel better. And he like looked at me and said, no, seriously, you have no idea of how terrified people are of being themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you obviously aren't. And that is something that people really wish they could do. And I was
Yeah.
like, thanks. I'm like, it's so true though. We're really pretty comfortable just being ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
at this point in my life, and at least in the time that I can remember, like even in the past 10 or so years or longer maybe, I really can't remember a time I didn't do what I wanted because I was afraid of what people would think of me.
Yes,
And
definitely.
I think it goes the same with love and with relationships, and people are just so scared. And I'm like, you're at this point, for me, I'm going to be 32, and I date people around that age, and I just say to them, you're way too old to be that scared. Like, your life is taken away.
Right, like unless you want to be a bachelor forever, which
Right.
fine, totally valid choice. But if you
Which a
are
lot of
looking for
them
love,
don't.
what are you waiting for? Like,
Right.
now is the time.
So I'm thinking we have a few more topics, and we are running like close on time. I think what if we do a whole episode next week on catfishing?
Okay.
So we can include some of these, we can extend it in a way. So we were going to talk about catfishing, but we did have a lot of stuff to talk about in that realm.
Right.
So we'll
save
save that
it.
for next
Save it.
week. So if you guys do have any great catfishing stories, or horrible, because it is heartbreaking when it happens, and betrayal.
Right. And just to be clear, we're talking about when you trick someone online into thinking you're someone you're not. We're not talking about catching catfish. Although if you want to share those stories as well, that's fine. I guess we could make it a dual topic.
Maybe, yeah, depending on what kind of feedback we get, sure.
Yeah, like if you have some terrible noodling stories you want to share, we'll check them out.
And by noodling, we mean catching catfish, not that other noodling, which we're not
Yeah.
going to talk about.
I don't know what that's all about.
I'll tell you later. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even think it's a thing. I was trying to be funny. Anyway, I hope you guys laughed.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I'll try to not tell you when I'm joking. Okay. I mean, like, not make it super...
let's just move on.
Okay. All right. So we did ask our listeners.
Yeah, we don't know if they
Some
like
of them
us.
are fans. I know some of them are.
Right.
We asked our listeners for some feedback and some inspiration or some stories about online dating.
Right.
So, first
So
of all,
we did
our
get a few
Aunt Carol, she did comment on one of our threads about how she's tried online dating before, but now she just feels like it's too scary. So I asked her how she meant scary. Did she mean like emotionally vulnerable, or someone's gonna murder me? And she said, yeah, serial killer scary. So
And scam artist scary.
And scam artist, that's true.
Right.
So then I have a story that a friend told me. She
Oh,
said
yeah, so
that
I haven't heard this one
Yeah.
yet. I'm very excited.
she said that she doesn't really do that much online dating, but
Okay.
she started talking to a guy, and he seemed really cool, and they talked on the phone, and they would text, and he worked with someone whose friend, so she was friends with someone who worked with him.
So they had a mutual friend he worked with?
Well, or it was the mutual friend, her friend was mutual friends with someone. So,
Okay,
it
so
was
there
like
was
a
like a
3 connection
3
thing.
degrees of separation.
But basically, her friend kind of checked up on him and got the scoop and was like, yeah, he is a good guy. Because she said she did get a slight vibe, maybe from a couple of things that he said. Or then she got a vibe, and then she felt like, I don't really want to meet him. So she basically told him she wasn't ready to meet yet, but then he kind of freaked out and got really upset. So she's like, okay, well, now I'm really uncomfortable, so I
definitely don't want to meet you.
And then, like, a while later, maybe like a year or so later, her friend calls her or sends her, like, a newspaper article, because basically the man was arrested for like soliciting underage girls online, and then also he had not soliciting underage girls, I'm sorry, he was online, but he was trying to hire a hitman to kill a woman who rejected him online.
Oh my god, was it her?
No, it wasn't her,
Okay.
but it was like someone else. So she basically got the vibe, and he was. So Carol, I'm sorry to confirm that it does exist. I was gonna say that doesn't really happen, but
That's
it
so
does.
crazy.
And we've heard of the Craigslist killer. So
I watched a Lifetime movie on him.
yeah.
Also, I watch some shows on like Investigation Discovery about stalkers,
Yeah,
and
it's
that
so
is
scary.
crazy.
I know.
So that's really scary that happened.
Yeah,
but I mean,
it
good for her
is.
that she picked up on it enough to get out, because
Yeah,
those people
that-
are creeps.
Because if she had given him enough information, he might have been able to
Kill her via hitman.
find her, figure out how to hurt her in some way.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
But
Well,
also,
so-
side note, like, we do encourage people to still, again, like, not be scared, even when it comes to actual things that are scary like that physically. Because I just feel like most of the stuff that happens, it's so rare, and I would
Right.
rather live my life as a trusting person and regret that than be not trusting and regret it.
Yeah. And of course, you have to have a good sense of a judge of character. If
Right.
you're the kind of person who's constantly getting swindled all the time, maybe have someone there with you to help you out. But
Ask for a second opinion.
if you're the type of person who can pretty much pick up on the BS, then, you can probably trust your gut and be pretty safe.
That's true.
All right.
So then Renee has a really a great story about a horrible date that she went on.
So this was from Plenty of Fish, I want to say. And I'm just going to give you the key points because I am going to post a blog post with this story, so you can check it out there for more details. But basically, TLDR, got invited to the city, told I didn't have enough money to come in, told I would be reimbursed for a train ticket, picked up at the train station, brought to a restaurant, got a seat while he parked the car. He never returned. So, you want to hear the gory details? You can check out the WordPress, and we'll put up a blog post.
Yeah, so you can check it out on deerfootsisters.com, and that will come out. Oh, it will already be up at this point. I forgot.
Oh my god, time traveling. We'll post it a few days ago.
What is this? Happy Death Day to you.
Oh my god, please. Oh, speaking of, should we review our movies?
Oh, yeah.
If we didn't get to your success story, we'll cover that next week too. We can cover some of our success stories next week, probably.
I think we'll probably have time to do it because we can probably go a few minutes.
Okay, so we'll look at our comments then of success stories, since we heard our horror stories, right? Just
Yeah.
the 2 so far.
Yes, so I think those were the main ones that we had.
Right. And obviously there's probably much more horrific ones, but try not to let the horror stories get you down. There are also successes as well. A lot of people have success with online dating. Myself, obviously. My great husband, Tim. We also had a Facebook comment from a friend, Mai, and she stated that her husband and her met on Plenty of Fish 7 years ago, and it was love at first sight.
Aww.
First website. No, I'm just kidding. Love at first sight. And then a year later, they got married. And 10 days after their wedding, their first child was born. And I say we are friends with them on Facebook, this couple, and they are very cute, very good chemistry. Seems like they really do love each other. And 7 years ago, that's like ending the honeymoon phase.
Yep.
So once you power through those first 7 years, that's when the true love comes through. So that's pretty impressive. And we have another friend who commented on our Instagram page and told us that she met her wife also through Plenty of Fish. So far we've got 2 in the win for Plenty of Fish. I asked them what their first date was and how she knew that her wife was the one. And she basically said they met on Plenty of Fish, they chatted for a while, and they had nothing in common. And they thought, this isn't really going to work out. They're total opposites. But then they went on a date anyway to a brewery, which was pretty far. It was in New Hope, Pennsylvania. So they had to travel quite a bit to find each other. But eventually, after about a month or so, our friend went and met her now wife's family and realized, like, this is the place for me. So seeing the family, I guess they just had a good connection, a good bond, and she felt really welcomed, and then the rest is history.
Awesome. Yeah, so 2 of them, the success stories were on Plenty of Fish.
Yep.
And Renee and Tim's was from OkCupid. And we're also going to be, you can also check out our socials and our website for a picture of Renee's OkCupid profile, her original profile, or not her original, but
my version
her actual
6.3
profile that captured the eye of her husband.
Profile.
And
in case you're wondering, Tim's very first message to me, wasn't Maui beautiful? He went to Maui on his first honeymoon. He didn't tell me that in the message, but I later discovered.
My wife and I loved it.
Yeah. I loved it there.
So, yeah,
are we going to do our movie review?
I think we'll touch on it really quick. So, I had already seen this movie, The Favorite, but Renee just watched it this week with our mom. So, just tell us, 10 seconds I thought of it.
So much pressure. Okay, so The Favorite, I was told it was really weird, and it was somewhat weird, but I thought it was actually pretty good. The characters were interesting. I can't really say they were sympathetic. I kind of hated everybody. But the story was good. There were some funny parts and some very disturbing parts and some very sad parts as well. But overall, I would say it's worth a look.
Good.
Definitely worth a viewing.
I agree. I thought it was worth it. The ending is strange. I think that's why I felt like it was so weird.
The ending is extremely peculiar.
It's very strange, and
it's
takes
weird
so
to make
long.
Yes, and it's weird to make the ending so weird because that's what
and
everyone
you're
remembers.
Just like, oh,
yeah, like
weird. You're just
so many bunnies.
Yeah,
so many bunnies.
So strange.
It's very peculiar.
Okay, so now we're just lastly, we're gonna shout out to our brother's podcast. Renee did mention it last week, but she didn't actually tell you what it was called.
So yes, our brother's podcast is called Beefy Boys with an I instead of a Y because they're really cool. Their official name.
People might get confused.
What? Oh, okay, yeah. Beefy in the I's in the boys, not in the beefy.
Yeah. So it's beefy spelled normally. Boys is BOIS.
Yes. And you can find them on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. They have a logo. It's a yellow background. Their podcast is all about video games, sports, and music, but their tastes in music are a bit eclectic. They're into like heavy metal and some folk music. So it's an interesting podcast, but if you are into sports or video games, you should definitely listen. The amount of knowledge that these people have on sports
and video games.
It's like amazing. Yeah, video games definitely. I think our brother has played every video game ever invented in the history of the world, unless it's on Xbox.
And I don't know how he hears one and he's just like, oh, and that jump thing in level 9. And I'm like,
and I'm like, what? And I know they don't rehearse ahead of time.
Yeah.
But it's like any video game anyone brings up, he'll correct them on something they said about it because he knows that much about each one. And same things with sports. He'll like know every person who was on each team for like every sport. And I'm like, what do you just like watch sports and video games all day? I don't even understand.
Yeah.
It's insane. So if you like either of those topics, you should definitely check them out. Beefy Boys, and they're officially known as the Beefy Boys Bud Club because they're just best buds.
Yeah. Okay, so we do have some great videos up on our YouTube channel, so you can check us out at Deerfoot Sisters, and you can like and subscribe to our channel and like our videos. Our website is deerfootsisters.com. On Facebook, you can find us at Deerfeet Podcast. Our Instagram and Twitter are both Deerfoot Sisters. And then please send us emails. We like to read from you.
Yes, we want to get emails.
Our email is deerfootsisters@gmail.com. You can obviously message us on any of the social platforms, but, just give us your feedback. Like Renee had said last week, constructive feedback. But we do want to know, what you guys are thinking about our podcast. And we're going to be talking more about online dating next week, but specifically about catfishing, stories about it, our history with it. And some other topics that kind of link into it. So if you have any stories about catfishing, let us know.
Yeah, and definitely, because right now all of our emails in our Gmail account are you signed up for Twitter.
Yeah,
a new
person
Podbean.
logged in on Twitter.
So we would really like to actually see an email in there from a live person instead of a robot. So please send us an email.
And if you're a robot, you can also email us. If you're
we don't discriminate against robots.
A cognizant robot.
And we would love at some point to maybe start featuring an advice column. You want to get the worldly view of the sisters on whatever is plaguing you. So if you have any issues you're dealing with, even if they're not on topic, it can be anything. You have a question about what color you should dye your hair, or maybe something more serious like, should I break up with my boyfriend? Or what should I name my dog? Whatever question you have or anything you need advice on, or you just want to get some feedback from us or from some of the listeners, just send us an email, and we would, we're looking forward to checking out what's on the listeners' minds.
Definitely.
And what you guys want to hear more of. So let us know.
All right. And we did not work on that really catchy
sign off.
Goodbye. Yeah, sign off. I couldn't.
What
even
was it
remember
last
what
week?
it's
We're prancing away.
called.
Okay. Good night, everybody, or good morning, whatever. Have a good day.
See you next week.